Welcome to the Microsoft Partner Innovation Vodcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Zarate. And joining me is Rodney Clark, CVP of Channel Sales and Microsoft Channel Chief. Today, we're bringing you multiple conversations that we've stitched together into one episode around new commerce experience, which you may also know as NCE. And with NCE, Microsoft is on a multi-stage, multi-year journey to drive cloud business growth and profitability, reduce licensing complexity and costs, and address how customers prefer to purchase and how partners are enabled to sell. So Rodney, before we have our guests join us, could you share with our audience why Microsoft is making these changes and doing so via the new commerce experience?
Jenny, thanks so much for hosting this series, an important series. As most of us know, the new commerce experience is something that Microsoft has been focused on since 2019. It's not necessarily new anymore. We started with Azure subscriptions a few years back and really started streamlining the number of licensing and transactional offers that we had to our partners and our customers. And you touched on some of the things in terms of the why. It was reducing that complexity and transaction. It was looking at how we drive our cloud business and growth and profitability. And it was always also recognizing that customers are purchasing in a different way and streamlining these 20 some odd licensing transactional mechanisms down to 3 became a core priority for the company. And that's where we are today. We have an enterprise motion, a motion in CSP that's really focused on those small and medium businesses, as well as a direct motion. When we think about the partner aspect and the why, it really is helping them as well achieve additional and gain additional efficiency, streamlining and building more simplicity into the process. And so while it has been a multi-year journey, by the way, that will continue, we will continue to iterate and continue to add value for both our partners and customers through new commerce.
And as we learn more about the why and dive into how that impacts partners, let's welcome our first guest, Insight CEO Joyce Mullen, who after having more than a dozen roles at Dell Technologies throughout her 21 years there, became the first woman CEO at Insight on January 1st of this year. Thank you for being here, Joyce.
Thanks so much, Jen. I'm really happy to be here to discuss the improvements that Microsoft is making with the new commerce experience and also how we're together going to optimize a client experience and a partner experience.
Thank you, Joyce. It's great to have you.
Yeah, and Joyce, I'll jump in and say I'm so excited for you to be here. It's always a treat, whether it be new commerce or our quarterly business reviews that we do with your team. It's just always great learning from your experience and ultimately Insight's experience as you manage the greater ecosystem that we both care so much about. Maybe I'll start with the first question. When we launched new commerce going back to 2019, and especially with this new iteration now, adding things like Dynamics 365, M365, the whole point was looking at how we support our partners' ability to grow their business. How do you think about that at Insight?
Well, Rodney, it's great to be here. Thank you again for the invitation. We really appreciate Microsoft's clarity on intention. And though, as you know, Rodney, we certainly don't always agree. No one does. But we do agree that there are changes here that help Microsoft's partners like us and also help our clients, which is probably even more important. This is absolutely going to be a simpler experience for our clients in the long run. And by the way, these things are never easy. So the short term is going to have some bumps along the way. But I have every confidence that given our long-standing relationship with Microsoft, we'll figure this out together. And our strategy really for selling Microsoft's cloud solutions bundled with our Insight's value-added services hasn't changed. However, the move to NCE has ensured that we have the necessary systems and tools in place to support the evolution and hopefully accelerate the pace.
Yeah, thanks for that. And you're right. The process of getting better is to listening to each other and adjusting and getting that feedback. And we appreciate Insight, not only there, but also the investments that you've made in things like cloud care. One of the things in NCE as we make this transition is really trying to create some energy around our partners really doing their transition in ways that allow them to take advantage of all that is in new commerce sooner rather than later. One of those levers that we have instituted is the monthly term promo, which runs through June June of this year. I was going to mention fiscal years, but not everyone is bound by the same fiscal years, but runs through June of this year. In Insight's mind, how can partners take advantage of this monthly term offer? Or do you see partners taking advantage of the promo?
Absolutely, Rodney. And we really do value that ability to offer that promotional monthly pricing through June, especially for clients who just haven't figured out, they don't know if they want to commit to an annual term. Maybe they have a lot of seasonal employees, or maybe they're planning on an acquisition or a divestiture. So this gives us an incremental level of flexibility. It also eases the burden of cost increases and lets them budget over a longer period of time. So although clients are used to paying at a certain price point, and the change management of sort of getting them used to something new is really good for us in terms of practicing our selling skills, and that's really necessary here. But that flexibility is super important, so we appreciate it.
Excellent. One of the other key benefits, and I think about this from a partner perspective, is the efficiency that I talked about earlier. This ability to do things like bulk migrations from legacy over into new commerce experience. Maybe comment a little bit on how Insight is thinking through that.
Yeah, it's really just not even feasible for a company like Insight to migrate individually, since we have thousands upon thousands of legacy subscriptions. So we've chosen to migrate our clients on their anniversary dates. And then I'm sure each of your partners will likely choose a migration strategy that works best for them. And that's also terrific. And it's going to probably largely be based on subscription volume.
Yeah, I agree with you. And the early pattern and indication is that it is based on subscription volume. So we're seeing that as well. One of the other key features that we've incorporated into new commerce is the ability to sell add-ons separately in new commerce. Do you see that as a benefit, and how are you thinking about that at Insight?
Yeah, absolutely. We really appreciate that flexibility, because those independent add-ons help us provide clients with the upsell opportunities, and those add-ons help partners like us upsell, and also provides clients with valuable options so they can consolidate more of their IT spend with Microsoft and hopefully with Insight. It also can create some risk for clients, though. These add-ons can expire at different times and than the base subscription. So this could unknowingly put a client out of compliance. So we need to watch out for those risks and make sure we're keeping our clients' best interests at heart. I think there's a bit more work to do on higher volume partners, but it'll be worth the effort.
Now, Joyce, what have you been hearing from partners throughout the NCE journey? And to dive a little deeper on the impact that's had as we continue to evolve how our partner ecosystem performs.
Well, as I said, it's really terrific that Microsoft is really clear about improving the client experience with NCE, and we take that client obsession very, very seriously. We've got to create exceptional value at every opportunity, and I know Microsoft is committed to the same. And then when we're in larger partner forums, whether it's live on calls or in Teams channel that you've set up for partners, we all witness all kinds of forms of feedback, the good and they're not so good. But usually everybody's quite generous in this space, so nobody's too shy. But what we really admire about Microsoft is your team's willingness to roll up your sleeves and work through the issues with us. And that's really how we make things better for our clients. So the performance continues to be a little slow around provisioning new subscriptions, which is in accordance with the chatter that we're seeing on Teams channel from the other partners. And I know we're all working together to solve that.
Yeah, we are really working together to solve it. And just a huge shout out to teams at Microsoft as well as Insight for really partnering for the good of our ecosystem and helping us get there. And so, Joyce, I want to say thanks so much for joining us today. As we close our time together, please share any final thoughts that you have.
Well, I know we have many, many, many more years together, Rodney. It's been a great 30 years that we've been working on our partnership, 120 or so quarters, lots of changes along the way. NCE is showing us how quickly this industry can move. And frankly, it's going to help us move even faster. There is nothing that's more important to clients right now than digital transformation and modernizing their businesses. And I think this is a great step forward. And I know we appreciate the partnership with you and the entire Microsoft team and look forward to great successes with NCE.
Well said, Joyce. Thank you again for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me. Great to see you all. Take care.
Now our next guest, Victor Baze, Senior Vice President of Cloud at Ingram Micro, has done more than 15 webinars with partners globally in 6 languages, reaching more than 13,500 attendees and more than 30,000 viewers on demand, as reported by CRN, on the fundamentals of NCE and the benefits for partners. Welcome, Victor, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Jennifer.
And I have to add, 6 languages. You must be great at math.
Well, it's not just me, it's the entire team. We have over 200 people working on this. Somebody has to know all the languages, right?
So could you both talk about how partners can successfully transition their business to the new commerce experience for Azure, as well as seat-based offers, whether that's helping partners work through infrastructure changes or even changes to their business strategy, because the way they'll do things in new commerce varies greatly from the existing cloud solution provider program.
Yeah, Jennifer, as you mentioned, right, we've done many webinars. I would actually say that number has more than doubled since the last piece of data was updated. The first thing we tell partners is basically embrace it. This is part of a very long-term journey Microsoft went on a couple of years ago, and now it's really, really coming to life. The first form of it we saw back in 2019 with Azure, and now with all the seat-based offerings coming into NCE, it's really, really coming to life. So we basically say a couple of things, right? Number one, get really entrenched into lifecycle management of your customers so you can kind of understand where they are with their subscriptions, support them through the change. Change is difficult, right? And then look at new services that you can offer, because the platform is a lot more compelling and better to use than any other platform that was in place before. So those are kind of our tips to our partners.
Jenny, if I can add to Victor's comments, I think he hit it right. And Victor, your guidance to the channel is exactly right, which is to embrace it. This is a change, but a necessary and needed change. And when you slow down to really think about the efficiencies that it brings, it's worth the investment. It's hard to see that in the outset, but it is aligning to the customer needs. It's embracing the simplicity that this will bring while we're working through these changes now, having a headset that says, hey, here's ultimately what it gets me, a streamlined set of engagement, an opportunity actually to win more customers in the long run. And so my guidance is just to look at this not through the lens of just the immediate, but long-term as well, and to lean on partners, quite frankly, like Ingram, to help us make the transition.
Yes, absolutely.
So, hey, Victor, with that, let me maybe ask you a couple of questions just to get at the heart of some of the feedback that I'm getting, and I know that you're getting as well. Maybe the first of a couple of questions that I'll ask is, how are you helping partners accommodate the change to their internal systems?
Yeah, Raji, that's a very good question. Well, first of all, change is difficult for everybody, the customer, the partner, even ourselves, right? So we obviously did a lot of webinars, as we mentioned earlier, lots of training sessions as well. Then we also have a dedicated coaching group that's kind of individualized for some of our key partners, right? On top of that, we introduced a few assets, our own intellectual property, to migrate some of these subscriptions, starting back in 2019 with Azure. We also did the same thing now with the seat-based offers, right? And then on top of all of this, we also added some white glove services to help partners, for example, navigate through the different contractual models that are coming into play. So basically, a lot of coaching, a lot of support, a lot of engagement, so that partners can eventually run this on their own. And to be super excited about this, in the last couple of weeks, we've kind of seen a significant drop in the number of questions, concerns that partners had. So again, a very intense engagement model that helped us put us in a better place right now. Yeah,
and you really invested on the front end, and that's why you're seeing the the decrease in the number of questions that you're getting as these partners do shift and make adjustments to their internal systems. One of the other business model shifts and changes that NCE has brought about is this single consolidated billing date for all subscriptions. And I know this has been somewhat of an adjustment for you as well as the partners in the ecosystem that you serve. Talk a little bit about some of the conversations that you've had around that and how some of our partners are actually managing that.
I would say that that's probably one of the best features coming out of NCE. I think the ecosystem was kind of trying to do it on their own. And then, of course, right, we lack the automations, all the API work that Microsoft put together. So I would say that's probably one of the most positive enhancements of NCE, because the partners can now go back to their customers and say, hey, your relationship with us, with Microsoft, is drastically streamlined and simplified. You have one invoice date, and everything that you add on throughout the given period is prorated, right? Which is exactly what everybody wanted, right? So this was probably, I'm going to repeat this for the third time, probably one of the most exciting things coming out of NCE for the ecosystem right now.
Now, how are we demystifying the new commerce experience? Because while change can be difficult, as Rodney mentioned, partners are beginning to see that the move to new commerce is essential to their transformational journey. And that's for both partners and customers.
Yeah, it is transformational. And I think over time, this is what our partners will start to see. When we talk about consolidating the number of transactional motions and billing motions, I've gone on record saying that at one point we had close to 20 some odd motions, and that we've now gotten really crisp around 3, enterprise motion, this motion in CSP, and then a direct motion. And really new commerce is allowing us to do that. We talk about the ease of billing and the reconciliation of large data and processing that's required for managing these agreements. We talk about the streamlining of new product offerings, just to name a few. Victor, any thoughts in addition to what I mentioned that come to mind?
Yeah, I would say on top of everything that you said, Rodney, that now it's a reality, right? And it worked. And again, obviously pain comes when there's change, but now that people have seen it in action and seen that it's working, that there is a simpler engagement model for a partner-led motion, such as NCE through Microsoft, is what's going to keep driving growth further, right? So on top of everything that's already happened, the ability, for example, to consolidate invoices that was not there before, now live, is a reality, and I think people are embracing it more and more.
Yeah, Victor, as you were talking through that, I'm reminded, and I'll say this with a smile, the biggest smile, is that we now have over 90% of our channel that's able to transact in new commerce. And what that tells me is that the ecosystem and the partners are realizing the net benefit of all of the adjustments and all of the efficiencies that you and I just talked about. And so it's great to see it at this stage, and obviously excited for what's to come as we continue on the transformation.
Yeah, and I think as we continue to over-communicate, remind them of the key dates coming forward, it'll keep getting better.
Well, thank you, Victor, and thank you, Rodney, for joining me in another episode of the Microsoft Partner Innovation Vodcast. I'm Jennifer Zarate.